So normally when I record these videos, I put on makeup and I do them in the day, so at least there's some decent lighting going on. But it's 10 o'clock at night and I have no makeup on. And it was just something came to me that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to video and record and share. And I didn't want to wait till tomorrow when I felt like putting makeup on. And there's been thunder and lightning, so you may hear that while we talk. So I just had a fantastic day, really. I woke up this morning, I slept in by mistake. Um, it was perfect. And rolled out of bed, did my morning stuff, went and danced, and came back and worked and cleaned my house, which doesn't sound fun, but I cleaned my house and made some dinner because I had some fantastic people over to celebrate do have a little bon voyage for a friend of mine who's going away for the summer. And it was a nice, also a little housewarming for me. Now, I've been in my house for a year and a half, but when I moved to Asheville a year and a half ago, I didn't know anyone. So I didn't really have, I had no friends. It was totally fine. I wasn't anticipating having friends, and I hibernated, and it was fantastic. And but it was so nice to have a house full of people that are just fantastic and I love, and getting to, share my space. And anyway, that was all well and good. But, I recognized that there was a time in my life not all that long ago, 6, 7 years ago. At this point, about 5 maybe, whenever, yeah, um, that I was miserable. Was in a job I didn't like. I really wanted to figure out, what I wanted to be doing in the world. What was my way of serving? What was my amazing human experience? Those weren't the words that I used, but I wanted that. And there was this time, it was 2007. I had just finished my 4th year of grad school. I did 2 years in an additional 2-year program to become a marriage and family therapist. And I was, all excited to be a therapist. And then I sat in graduation and I listened to Jean Houston speak. And I knew in that moment I would never be a licensed therapist. I didn't want to be a licensed therapist. I was willing in that moment to give up everything I thought I'd wanted to have this life that Jean Houston was talking about. This life of adventure, of my heart's calling of pleasure. Those aren't the words. I somewhere have her graduation speech. I should listen to it again. But it was incredible in that moment. And then I left thinking, ooh, what the fuck am I going to do? And I just, for years after that, about 3 years, 2.5 years, until I was mercifully let go from my job and, started me way in deeper and engaged in my life, I would say my adventure is calling. I could hear it call. I could feel it. I could feel something out there, a magnetic pull. And I was far from it. Like I didn't feel wrapped up in it yet, but I knew it was there. And I just kept saying, my adventure is calling. My adventure is calling. And I wanted it. And I did some things. I traveled a lot more. I set an intention to travel once a month. And it is, without exaggeration, I have traveled once a month until February of this year when I declared it, no travel February, and I managed to also not travel in March. It was fantastic. But I really that was a little piece I knew would be, something that would be fantastic. But I just, for years, I kept saying, my adventure is calling, my adventure is calling. And it wasn't until I was fired that I started to reach for my adventure. So I know that there's someone out there who's listening to this and thinking, yeah, my adventure is calling. Or, what's going on right now, the life I have, no matter what it may look like to anybody else, isn't the life that you want to be living. There's something more. There's an adventure calling for you. And so here's what I would say. I didn't meet my adventure until until I started to act, until I started to get engaged, until I decided to meet my adventure. My life, things just didn't get to be spectacular. I had to be part of it. And when shit's up, and believe you me, shit gets up. Like, I'm a human being, and I have a growing edge, and I love it. Even in the muck of it, I feel so blessed that I'm at a place in my consciousness that I can do this work, and I can let things go, and I can walk this path, and I can love myself. But I had to do all of that. My business just didn't show up. I mean, the Receiving Project kind of showed up in my consciousness. But even still, it all started because I sat down and wrote every day. And I dared to share it. Even, though I thought 10 people would sign up, I dared to share it. And I dared to start having sessions. And I, it just exploded from there. I dared to work with a coach, Michelle, that I've worked with for years. And, that was just amazing for me to be like, oh, I can invest in myself like this. And something that's not, a graduate school piece of paper that means something to other people. You have to get in it. Your adventure is calling, but it's calling you to do something. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh God, it all seems so far away, it may. I mean, it's been, excuse me. I told you I wasn't, prepared for any of this. It just kind of came up that I need to talk. If you're sitting there thinking, yeah, it's so far and it's a lot of work, and it may be, and it is worth every cent, but your adventure is calling. And I looked around this evening and thought, I moved here, pretty damn adventurous, a year and a half ago. In August of 2012, I sold my place in LA, and I packed up and drove across the country, and people kept asking me what I was doing, and my only response was, I don't know. Eventually, I knew I wanted to come here and to Asheville and settled here, and I had to get in it. I spent 6 months hibernating, no regrets. It was fantastic. I had no desire to meet people, but come May last year, someone invited me to go to Asheville Movement Collective and dance, and I did for the first time, and I've been doing it pretty steady since. And then I started to dance at other places, and I started to take workshops, and I started to get engaged in the community. I started to volunteer. My adventure called, and I showed up and acted. So if you're waiting for your adventure, dive in. It is so, so, so worth it. I can't promise you it'll be easy, but it's worth it. It's not a coincidence that the work I do, I often call adventures. I have a day-long adventure and then a 32-day epic adventure. And to me, it's the way that I can invite people to take delicious and graceful action in engaging in the adventure of their human experience. It is worth it. It gets so much better, but it only gets better if you're willing to do something. So that's what I have to say today. This has been a long video. Thanks for indulging me in a last second makeup-free talk with you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a message below, and or email me at joanna@joannarothman.com. Okay, bye.